All right, in studio with us now is the Sheriff of Maricopa County. Sheriff, first of all, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Mike, it's my honor to come in here and get my message out to the people.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time for law enforcement, and I don't think people realize how big Maricopa County is. How big is the county, and how big is your agency?
Okay, Maricopa County is 9,224 square miles, bigger than 5 states, bigger than some states combined. And we have 4.6 million people, and the sheriff's office is supposed to have 4,006 employees. We don't, about 1,300 employees short. And so we've been on a tear to recruitment. That's why I brought Ann here with me. She's our chief of recruiting, and we've been making a big effort since January to bring people on board.
How difficult is it to patrol an area that big and run the jails that short-staffed?
Well, it's not difficult. It's a little complicated, the logistics of it, because you've got substations all over the county and each one of the corners. And in the middle, you've got the municipalities. And so we actually are the primary law enforcement agency for 500,000 people that live in the unincorporated areas.
And I think that's the big. Is it a challenge? I'm guessing it's a challenge that you, similar to DPS, that you are patrolling areas that are densely urban, but you are also out in the very outskirts and very rural areas, and sometimes backup is a very far distance away.
Well, you think about it. Maricopa County is about 30 miles from the Mexican border at one point, and we're about 70 miles from the California border, and we go all the way up to the Four Peaks, which is at 8,000 feet. So, yeah, it is very diverse, very big, and it's not easy to police it all the time because some of those areas, like you said, there's no population, but things happen out there.
And we were talking before we went on the air about the patrol of the lakes and things, waterways as well.
Right.
So when you look at all of that, and you are trying to recruit, and maybe Ann wants to weigh in with this, is that a plus or a minus, the diversity of what you get to do?
I feel like it's a plus, definitely, 100%. There's so many roles that you can take on in this office for deputies, different units that they can go to. So I think it's a plus for sure.
What is the biggest challenge to recruiting for you? Is it that you're fighting over? I mean, so many agencies are short-staffed. What is the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge, I would say right now, just getting us out there and speaking with people because we are short-staffed. So when we're one-on-one with people and we get a chance to talk with them, it's been positive. So the biggest thing right now, I think, is just getting out there and telling everyone about our office and how wonderful it is.
And the dichotomy of the politics of it, because being the elected sheriff, you don't answer to a city council. You don't answer to a mayor's office. You just answer to the voters. Does it give you more freedom to say what needs to be said? Because I've known you long enough to know that you are not one to hold back when you feel something.
Right.
Is that a good thing for you?
That's a great thing. I think that's the best thing about being the sheriff is I report directly to the people. And I don't have to worry about a city manager telling me you can't say this, you can't have this press conference, that kind of thing. So it's really good, and I have a great working relationship with the Board of Supervisors. They've been very supportive since I took over in January, and I'm looking forward to some great things, and that's why I brought Ann on, because when I first met her years and years ago, she was recruiting for us, and I knew she loves the sheriff's office. She's very good at what she does, and she's a great person to go out there and tell people about all the different things that they can do at the sheriff's office. When you think about it, a police department, they really only do a couple of things. Sheriff's office, like you said, we have an airboat, we have boats, we have helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft. We go all over the country bringing prisoners back, and we do a lot of things that the normal police department doesn't do.
Is it difficult to recruit people to work in the jail?
Yes, it is. It's difficult because people, they see on TV and they get ideas of what it's like, but it's not really like that. I started out as a volunteer, and then I worked in the jail, and I had a great time in the jail. most of the people in jail, they've done something stupid and they got caught. They're regular people too. So you're not always dealing with the really bad, evil people, which there's some in there also. Most of the time, you're just taking care of people that got caught for doing something.
When you look at you mentioned that when you started out, you worked in the jail. You've been in law enforcement how many years?
40.
What have you seen? What are the biggest changes you've seen? Is it tactics? Is it the availability of less lethal weaponry? Is it the attitude of the public? What has changed the most?
I think people are meaner these days. You know, when I was a deputy, if you got in a fist fight with somebody, that was a big deal. Now they're pulling guns, knives. They're trying to shoot our deputies and cops, and subsequently we have to defend ourselves.
My brother, as you know, my brother's a captain in the sheriff's office in my hometown, and he put it, I thought he put it very well. He said he doesn't feel less safe, but he certainly feels less respected, that the attitude of the public has changed. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Well, the bad guys.
Yeah,
really,
that's what I mean.
Yeah. Oh,
that's what
okay.
I mean.
You know, I think the general public, they love
Correct.
law enforcement.
But dealing with criminals.
I think here, I can't speak for his area, but here in Maricopa County, I think people are meaner. The bad guys are meaner, and they're less scared, and subsequently they want to hurt our officers and our deputies.
Since you've taken over, what has been the priority? Is there a priority in change? Is it the continuation of things that you thought were going on that were good? What has been your biggest priority since becoming sheriff?
Biggest priority was to fill those vacant positions that we have, because I have about 900 vacancies in the jail system. We're supposed to have 2,200. And so it's difficult to do what we need to do to keep the inmates safe and to keep the officers safe.
If you get somebody that's not a lateral move, but someone that starts off that has no law enforcement experience, how long does it take to get a deputy, in your opinion, to be stand alone, work alone if they need to, deputy on their own?
A year.
A year. And that is going through the training, going through FTO, and then actually having the work experience to feel as if they're confident enough to do the job.
Well, that's a different answer.
Okay.
Because it's about 5 years. I think it takes anybody about 5 years out on the road to feel confident in their own abilities. We have them out from the academy. A year is a time where they can operate by themselves. But to feel confident in what they're doing, 5 years.
5 years. And that sounds like a very long period of time, but it really isn't, especially with the diversity of what you're doing with the agency. If you're working in a very urban area for a period of time and then you're sent out to the rural areas or vice versa, there's got to be such a change in how you handle things.
Oh, it is. And the different aspects of what we have. We provide law enforcement services for Carefree, probably one of the most affluent areas in the state. And we're out in Aguila, a very rural area, farming area, very poor area. So, yeah, deputies have to be pretty diverse in how they approach things.
All right, Maricopa County Sheriff Jerry Sheridan is in studio with me, and let's get down to some of what's coming. We talked with the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Galvin, and he said that one of the focuses for the board was a bigger investment in public safety. What does that mean for your agency? And if there is going to be an increase in funds into your agency, how is it going to be spent?
Okay. It means quite a bit, actually. Deputies and detention officers historically get behind the power curve when it comes to funding, because the cities, they have a step plan. So every year the officers get pay raises and all that. The county doesn't have it. And so we tried to get a step plan this year, but it was too much financially for the county to afford. So they're going to give pretty significant pay raises to the deputy sheriffs and detention officers, and that'll help Ann in the recruiting process. And so far, it's been so good, and we haven't even had the pay raise yet, and we're starting an academy with 70 people on Monday.
That's incredible.
That's detention officers, people who work in the jail. We've got the next one right behind it. At this point, we have over 50 people that are going to be starting. So that is very significant.
I would say that I think everybody feels like they're a little bit underpaid. I mean, even NFL players have an agent trying to get them even more money. But it is pay, but isn't it also quality of life when you're working? Are the deputies the advocates for the agency? So if there's somebody out there looking at law enforcement, isn't it a deputy that says this is a great place to work?
They're our best recruiters, actually. So it comes down to pay and leadership. And leadership is what I bring to the table. I hate to say that, but that's what all the people that I talk to, well, not all of them, but most of the people that I talk to at the office, they welcomed me back. They knew what kind of leader I was, and they see it as a breath of fresh air, and they're excited about it. And there are people coming in, and I talked to a couple of academy classes, and I asked them, why are you here? And they said, oh, my friend, my family that works here, they told me it was a great place. So that's where the leadership part comes in.
Well, isn't it also an advantage for you because you grew up in law enforcement in this agency? You have grown up with Maricopa County.
Right. I was 18 years old when I started.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you started, how big was, the population was, what, a third?
There was about 1 million people
Okay.
in Maricopa County in 1977.
Yeah, because I moved here in 95, and it still was densely urban in Phoenix and in some of the surrounding cities. But as soon as you got north of Bell Road or you got west of, I don't know, not even where the 101 is now, it became very rural.
So when I remember Pima Road didn't go north of Shea, it was it was a three-way stop sign there. And now look at it. There was nothing in a lot of those areas. So we've really exploded. And about 200 people a day move to Maricopa County. So we are the #1 fastest growing county in the nation and have been for well over a decade.
We've been talking about finances and budgets. You have really been hindered in workforce and in funding because of this federal oversight, that you have so many people that have to be dedicated to this federal oversight. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's got to hinder your ability to do the job. And it's been over, what, $300 million that the taxpayers of Phoenix have spent with really no end in sight. Is there now end in sight?
Well, it's a little bit complicated because it's not a consent decree, okay? Phoenix PD, DOJ only was involved in it. They're looking at agencies across the country now that have consent decrees in place, but ours is a little bit different because we have a court order by a judge, and the judge is the one that has the ultimate power to stop the order or continue it.
But when you look at, and anything I'm saying is my words, not the sheriff's words. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's frustrating as a citizen of Maricopa County that it seems like no matter what's going on, you're now the fourth sheriff that has been dealing with this. And it seems like every single person has been frustrated that nobody knows exactly where the goalposts are, that every time it seems like you're in compliance with everything they want, it changes and we're back to spending money and spinning our wheels. As a citizen, it's frustrating.
That's true. There's well over 200 paragraphs that we have to comply with. But the bottom line, Mike, is the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office racially profiling or are they racially biased? And we have documentation for well over 10 years that is not the case. There are no disparities in traffic stops between a white driver, Hispanic driver, or a black driver. And that really should be the key that the court focuses on and the public focuses on. And it's been over a decade.
And I think also the public, as we talked about earlier, the public is squarely behind law enforcement. That we believe that these are good people that wear a badge like you do and like the people in this room do, that you are good people doing a very difficult job. It's when there's a little bit of a stigma here where people are saying things that for over a decade now, it's got to be frustrating for the deputies out there in the field to know that they're doing the right things for the right reasons, and yet there's still this stigma hanging over their heads.
It is. And, one of the other things I did, I brought in a guy that I knew. We worked in the jail together back in the 70s. He went to Phoenix PD for 22 years, and he worked for ICE for 24 years, and he was their community relations guy. So I hired Rudy Bustamante as my chief over community relations because he knows everybody in the community, and he's going to help us get rid of that perception that MCSO is a bunch of racist people, because it's not true. Over a third of the employees are Hispanic in the sheriff's office, and we've got about 10% that are Black and Asian and others. So we're a very diverse organization, and we provide law enforcement services for a very diverse county.
And there's a big difference in any job between doing your job well, but also being the utmost in professionalism. And every time I've had a dealing with anyone from the sheriff's office, it has been a professional interaction. And it's not always pleasant. You know, sometimes you're pulling people over. They don't want to get a traffic ticket or whatever. But I've always seen deputies behave in a professional manner.
Well, I think a person is attracted to the sheriff's office is different than a regular traditional law enforcement agency. And they come with that attitude that they treat people nicer. I don't know how else to say it.
So my last question along these same lines is got to be about the future. What do you want to see? What are your goals for the agency? Is it just growth? What is it for the agency 12 months and then going to the 4-year mark in your first term?
Right. My big goal this term is to get personnel up and then to satisfy the court order so we can get out from underneath that oversight, because we've had to create the big expense is personnel. It's not lawyers and all that. Those are relatively minor expenses. But when you have 50 people working in internal affairs, and it's not enough, and you have divisions that the judge ordered that you need a captain, lieutenants, sergeants, officers, deputies running these things, it's very, very expensive. So we won't need 1 or 2 of those divisions when we satisfy the court order. And I know specifically that internal affairs right now is running 100 miles an hour because they started out with 2,000 backlog cases. Now we're down to less than 1,000. And a lot of those are just minor, Mike, what we would call chicken, you know what the other word is, right? That we use in law enforcement, because somebody looked at me wrong and those kinds of things. And right now, because of the court order, we have to do a huge 40, 50-page investigation. Whereas traditionally, in probably every law enforcement agency in this country, a sergeant can handle it at that level.
I appreciate the time as always, and I'd like to make this on a more regular basis if you want. But it's good to talk with you, and you're always welcome. I appreciate you coming down.
Well, thank you. I always enjoy getting it out. And you know what? If I didn't have this vehicle, the people that I report to, the 4.6, they wouldn't know what the sheriff's up to. So I greatly appreciate it.
All right, Sheriff Jerry Sheridan spending a few moments.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch and listen to the new season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.